What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about 3 different Grayscale trusts today, and we're actually going to go over 5 different charts total amidst these 3 trusts. We've got some interesting requests. So from the Determined, Jordan Bailey, and Real Jesus Shalom. The Determined asked me to talk about LTCN, BCHG, and ETCG and give cycle high predictions and when. I've done this so many times, you guys. I know I have, right? So for those of you who are like, not again, just like I hear you, but at the same time, there are people who are unaware of this stuff, and sometimes data changes, right? And I definitely have different targets now than I did a year ago, and it's worth updating that every now and then. So we're going to do that for you, the Determined, and then for Mr. Jordan Bailey, we're going to talk about LTC versus LTCN, the actual underlying asset versus the Grayscale Trust to compare them, and then we're going to compare for Jesus Shalom BCHG to LTCN, which I think will be an interesting chart as well. I can't believe this is the first time we'll have been talking about it, but if that all sounds good to you guys, buckle up. It's probably going to take a second, right? I'm expecting it to be about a 40-minute video. Maybe I'll shorten it up. Maybe it'll be quick. We'll see how it goes. I'll try to stay on track. Hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you all for being here. Let's get started. Okay, so looking at the weekly time frame here on ETCG. You know, specifically, you want me to go over the all-time highs, and I don't want to waste too much time, so I'll go over the short-term stuff, relatively speaking, right? I do believe you found your low. I think that you are going to move up higher. If you move lower, man, if you were to move lower, the lowest I'd say is 595 to 519. You're at 829 now. I just don't think it's going to happen, but it could. It is possible. It's less common to find support here than it is down there, but I do like what you're doing on your daily RSI. Relatively speaking, I don't mind where you are on your weekly RSI. You found support down in these areas before. Finding support at previous areas of resistance as well looks fine to me. So yes, I think you'll move up. Let's say probably to 1233. That's your next target area, base of this kind of top area here. So yeah, 1233. When you move above that, we could talk about prices that are higher than 1935. Okay. As far as all-time highs go for this thing, if we look at the all-time high to the all-time low, if this thing is to see new all-time highs this cycle, which I'm not saying it will, right? I don't know if ETCG will. Maybe it does. It's the only one that's on a discount out of like all of the Grayscale trusts out there. Maybe it's not the only one, but out of like the ones that we talk about, it really is the only one. So maybe it does have a really crazy increase. But if it were to see new all-time highs, we'd expect 250 to 840, most likely between 410 and 250. With the private placement sales, I'm not 100% sure. I don't think ETCG is in those private placement sales. So again, that could give investors a reason to start looking to this one potentially, and that could spike some interest. It's possible. Certainly it hasn't had any interest since its prior all-time high, so it's really a question if this thing will see new all-time highs. I would feel the safest in guessing that by the end of this cycle for ETCG, you're going to be between $64 and $45. You're at $830 now, right? Which isn't as impressive as BCHG and LTCN, but I'm just being honest. It makes the most sense to me. It looks the most appropriate. If we did like an A, B, C move, right, kind of a mimicked move, we might even only go to the 61869 zone between $25 and $32. So that really is possible, right? We would have to see a pickup in the pace of what we've been seeing since February of 2023. We'd have to see this thing start picking up the pace if we want to see targets even at $45 to $64 by the end of the cycle. Okay, so that's my genuine opinion. As far as when would that happen, I would expect somewhere between April and October of next year. That's my expectations. Why? I'm not going to go over into all of it and explain it why, but I'll give you a brief description because I've done time analysis time and time again on Bitcoin, and the most logical areas that I can make sense of really are truly between March and October, potentially as late as December of 2025. Basically the whole year of 2025. It's very, very hard to get, right? But more refined, I would say April to October. Basing it off of that, I think that this will top off before the actual high. If we're given the range April to October, then let's assume that the high of crypto might not be at either end of those of that range, but it might be somewhere in the middle, maybe July. Then this thing we could see top off in like the early parts, the first half of 2025, sometime in March to June. That could be the case, but there really is a genuine potential. There's a genuine possibility that this thing could top off in August, in September. It's hard to say when it will top off, right? But I don't know. I'm looking at this and just thinking, you know, you topped off early last time, but so did ETC, right? May. What did ETC do? When did ETC probably topped off? June. No, May. It topped off at the same time. So actually, this one is one of the few trusts that actually topped off at the exact same time. So that would give it more plausibility that it could top off toward the second half. I changed my mind. I changed my mind and determined ETCG tops off, I think, in the second half of 2025. Yes, the range is between April to October, but I think it's going to be in the second half. Probably toward October is what I'm thinking. But again, I'm not convinced that you're going to see new all-time highs. Prove me wrong, and before like the midway point of next year, get above 64 bucks. But if not, this is where I'm thinking you're going for your high this cycle is between 45 to 64 bucks. Okay, ETCG did that enough. LTCN is the next one, right? Wishy-washy price action, very uncertain behavior down here. Of course it is. Finding support at the 123 moving average, an area that I thought we were going to go to down here, but we just didn't do, but now we are. Finding support at previous areas of support as well. If we look at the relative low here to the relative high, that's a cipher. We're not doing that. We're from a low to a high, right at the 0.5, not a common area to find support at again, right? Just like ETCG, right? From this low to this high, right? Not a common place to find support at. I didn't notice that, right? You found resistance here, now you're finding support, so maybe you are going to find support there. I'm kind of curious. Have you found resistance here on Litecoin too? Let's see if we can connect those dots. If you found resistance at the 0.5, maybe you do find support at the 0.5. Yes, it is like that. It is literally like that, you guys. It can be that simple. Nope, 618. But still. 618. And then, man, what? That 236 is down right there. You really could still go to $7. It is possible. You're at $11.95 now. I just don't see it happening. Again, the main reason is Litecoin itself, LTC. Oh, wait, that's a different chart. Sorry. LTC, I just don't see it going down. But anyways, looking at the weekly RSI. Come on now. Weekly RSI. At an area that it's found support before, generally I would expect you to get oversold, but maybe not. Maybe not in a bull market. Daily RSI looks pretty good actually, but you do, I take it back, you have hidden bearish divergence and you're finding resistance around the 60. That's not the day. Yesterday, Monday, was not the way you wanted to open this week. All is not foregone. It doesn't mean that we're going lower, but that's not a good look, right? You definitely want to turn this thing around. You don't want to go below this 0.5 level. If you go below about $10 and let's say 38 cents, you get any day to close below there, likely you will see prices at $7 or lower. Likely you will. The lowest I'd say is 560. Okay, this could still happen. Absolutely it could. Hard to say if it does, but I definitely don't like the daily RSI. I don't like your price action right now. Looking at the 3-hour time frame, I actually don't mind your 3-hour RSI, to be completely fair. So let's see how this pans out. Let's talk about LTCN and BCHG at the end of the week. Because if you have a recovery and it starts tomorrow, if you just start like backtracking and coming up, that would look really good. But if you go down here to the 0.5, I would think that you're going down there. So I'm not really certain one way or another. So LTC, the underlying asset, makes me think that this won't go down. But time will tell. We'll see. As far as cycle highs go, cycle highs and when I expect them. If this is the low, if we don't go to $7, right, it's all predicated on that. Actually, I'm sorry, it's not predicated on that. We can actually do the all-time high. I don't know what I was thinking. To the all-time low. Minimum expected target would be 2,300, 15,000 at the maximum. I don't think that's going to happen, right? I was leaning on this $5,000 to $2,300 zone for a while, but with the private placement sales, and LTCN does have that going on. I've explained in my last video talking about Grayscale, which I think was last week, that the targets have changed, right? Mr. Mark Black Fox brought up that point, and I think it's a good point to address, right? Back in February of this year, when the first private placement sales were going on, and I said this in a video already, but I'm going to say it again, you know, that was discouraging, but it wasn't debilitating. I don't think it's debilitating at all. Being this late in the cycle and not only announcing other or more private placement sales, but also having planned private placement sales throughout the next year for at least like 2 or 3 more is what Mark said. And I think that's true, right? I haven't heard anybody refute that. That's not good. That, in my opinion, is not good for growth. Someone did say that they think that would bring more liquidity in. And true, yes, it would, but at what cost, right? Someone also said that though the Bitcoin Cash per share was going down, right? In their trust, right? Though the Bitcoin Cash per share was going down, they were using funds to buy. They had more Bitcoin Cash overall in the trust, so they might have diluted it more with the shares than they did dilute the shares with Bitcoin Cash. But Grayscale was adding Bitcoin Cash to the trust, so that's nice. They're at least taking these. That tells me, and I trust the information I'm receiving. That tells me that Grayscale is at least still investing in these trusts. They're not clearing them out, right? So that's good. They're putting some of the money back, but it's not enough. It still is diluting the value. It definitely is, right? You can see that in the numbers whenever you go on the chart on the Grayscale website. You can see it when you look at the shares per the BCH per shares. I'm getting off track here, guys. All I'm trying to say is, I think the private placement sales, and I'm going over BCH when I'm on LTCN here. Private placement sales, I very much do believe will hurt these as far as performance goes. I am expecting new all-time highs for LTCN still. I just am not expecting that we will even break 2,300. Maybe you can, maybe, but that's kind of like the maximum. Where this was the minimum expectation, and this was kind of the expected area, the maximum expected area. It shifted to where this is not even the maximum now, unfortunately. But if we look at where we are here, even if we only go to the 618 and form a double top, well, at least you still get like a 5x, right? And that's like the worst case scenario. Still a 5x. I doubt that happens. I doubt that's where you go, right? I very much believe you're going to take out this high and go beyond that. The next target, based on the way that you've moved here, would be the 786 to the 886. So the more likely thing, if you were to not see all-time highs, would be at a minimum that you would get about a 13x from your current price to, if not about like a 22, 23x. Okay, so that's something I think that you can let's not hang on this phrase too much, but I would like to say these are targets you can count on. Okay, that's how I would phrase that. As far as new all-time highs go, I certainly do believe that. I certainly very much do believe you're going to see new all-time highs, which would then imply that you're at least guaranteed you're never guaranteed anything, but a 42 to a 43x, right? Still with LTCN. Boo-hoo, you're not going to see your multi-100x. Sucks, you're just going to have to deal with your 42x or your 50x or whatever it is, 70x. And maybe it gets really close to this line, but it doesn't achieve it. But that's where I think this fib, when we do establish our low, if that's the low, cool, then it's established. If not, whatever. And that might be the low, right? Because you can look and see 1272 right here at the 69, 1618 right at the 786, 1886 right at the 886, 3113 all the way at the 1272, right? You've got things lining up with each other, which is nice to see that kind of confluence. Perhaps the target we go to is this 2618 of this pretty respected fib based on the Fibonacci levels over here. It's not respected based on price action yet, but as it goes forward, maybe if that is the low, and I feel more confident that is the low than it's not the low. I'm just prepared in case it does go to $7. I'm not sugarcoating it. There are targets down there, but I'm comfortable calling that the low right now. That's where my frame of mind is, in case anybody has that confused. I would think, based off of my newfound logic and train of thought and belief as to where the highs are going to go, I don't think you're going to see this, but 2618 double golden extension based off of your consolidation phase, the longest consolidation phase that you've been in this whole cycle, right? Finding support on the 123 moving average here, right? Just shy of your 1272 area, between your 100 areas, still a new all-time high, and it's right at $1,000, which is a psychological level in itself, and it's just below there. I could see you going there. That's kind of my estimated target. So if I really had to guess where I think LTCN is going to go, how much growth it has from its current price of $11.95, the new shifted target, still a modest but pretty nice 81x, right? And that is if I had to make an estimation as to the all-time high, that's what it is. If I was holding LTCN and I'm not, I would not put myself, if I was holding LTCN, but I'm not holding it, but if I was, my sell orders would not be at $958. They wouldn't be at $1,000. Hell no, they wouldn't. They'd be at $858, $900, right? Like lower, just a little bit lower, but lower, right? $750, right? Above this 227, you're above all-time highs, perfect time to get the hell out. You know what I mean? Probably. That's what I'm guessing, right? In 80x, 81x, let's say you have $1 million in this trust. You think you're going to get all your $1 million out at the exact high? Probably not, right? 100,000, maybe 10,000, maybe, right? Like it's so get those big orders. You want to, if you want to layer it through and get the cherry on top. Okay, cool. I don't know how much money people are dealing with. You might only be dealing with $1,000. If you're dealing with $1,000, right? If you're got $10 in this thing now, or $100 in this thing now, or $1,000 in it now, whatever it comes out to be, right? If you had 1,000, it goes up to 80K. Okay, that's going to be questionable as to whether you'd be able to sell all that. I bet you'd be able to, but I don't know what the liquidity would be like up there. I would expect if you had 80K, you'd probably be able to flush all of it out of the top. But still, it's never a good idea to count on the top. Again, I was addressing earlier, these are areas, and I'm none of this is financial advice. I'm just going over my genuine opinions as far as how to layer out, because people get this in their head that, oh, that's where it's going to, I'm going to sell there. No, you're not, because if you put a sell order there, it might not hit. It's a logical area. It might not hit, but you're not the only person whose eyes are watching this video. You're not the only person. People who aren't even watching this video probably have targets here, and algorithms, trading bots have targets here based off of our current price action. That's a 2618 extension. Of course, that's going to be a focused on zone, right? And maybe it won't be. You never know, and that's why you never, at least I never, if I think the price is going to go here, I never sell right there. That's not how I do it. I know plenty of traders that do. Like, I genuinely know traders who do it that way, but they're not doing, they're doing shorter term stuff. So it's different. It's kind of different expectations on targets, right? And even then they kind of underplay their targets, but I'm getting beside the point here. What I'm trying to say is I don't do that. I would sell below. I would look for a nice area below, probably between 520 and $900. That's probably a good area to sell, probably closer to $900. But I went off on a whole tangent there. I didn't mean to. Same time frame. Okay, I would say for LTCN, it topped off here in November of 2020. LTC topped off in May of 2021. That's about 5 months prior. I do believe that you'll top off prior again. But looking at ETCG, again, that's something to think about. We've seen it before. We've obviously seen it before on a pretty major Grayscale trust. We could see LTCN top off at the exact same time as LTC. I don't think it will, because LTC is a more prominent crypto. I would expect you see LTCN selling off, and then going into the end of the year rally, or the end of the cycle rally for LTC, the selling off of this trust might flow into the LTC circulating supply, and then pump the price more, and then people are making gains on top of their gains. Maybe, like, some people might do that, even if it's just a little bit, maybe not. But that might have been what happened last cycle. I'm just saying. So with that in mind, I expect LTC to probably top off before Bitcoin. I would expect, if not around the same time as Bitcoin, but if it tops off before Bitcoin, it'd be like by a month. So if I expect Bitcoin to top off in October, which I do, or at least between like April to October technically, then I would say Litecoin maybe March to September, right? LTCN could be March to September as well, right? But potentially January could be a target area. January to April, I think, is an area to focus on. It could be, and I do think it will be, probably in around the halfway point of the year, if not the very early second half of the year, is kind of my expectation for LTCN. So when it sees this target around $1,000, I would guess, my best guess would be somewhere probably between about March to September of next year. It's a very big range, I know, but that's the answer I've got. As we get closer, we'll know more, but we're still far away. We're still far away from March. We're still far away from the beginning of that range. So when we get to January, I might have a different answer, right? But we're still very far away from that. So give me some slack here, right? The latter part of that range is an exact year away. So let's wait at least like 6 months, 5 months, 4 months, and then the targets, the time frame might change. We might have a better understanding. More stuff will develop in the chart, right? So. But that's the range right now. BCHG. BCHG is the next one. I want somebody to watch like my voice right now and then go to the beginning of the video and tell me how different it is, man. Because I bet the different, like, let me see. Like, this is clear. Hi, how's it going? I feel like my voice didn't sound like this a second ago. I don't know. And it's already getting raspier, but maybe it's in my head. Who cares? Let's move on. BCHG. BCHG. And then we're going to talk about the cool charts. These are all cool charts, but BCHG. Moving through this one a little bit, right? I like the daily RSI. This looks way better than LTCN does. I don't think it's going to go lower. I don't think it runs the risk of going lower at all. Well, I shouldn't say at all, but I'm more confident in this one. I don't like the hidden bearish divergence on the daily RSI. does stand to go lower, but probably not lower than this low. Again, right? Lower than the current price, sure, but not lower than this low. Down 8% yesterday from a relative high low to a relative high. That could have been it, man. That could have been it. That actually could have been the low. If you tipped, I don't know. That really could have been it. If not, $5.24 to $5 is where you're going to go. But I like that as a low, and I like that you could be bouncing off your 52. I don't like the RSI, to be completely fair, but we'll see. And I don't mind the 3 hour. You really do. If tomorrow's a green day for both LTCN and BCHG, you really do stand to see some more productive price action in the short term, right? In like the very immediate term. I like the weekly RSI. I like all things about it. So I'm very confident that's the low. I do think you're going to move up inevitably. Same thing with BCHG, right? High to low. I was calling for prices specifically around like 530 for over a year, right? That's where the targets were, 250 to 530. I do want to say I think Bitcoin Cash does stand a chance still of seeing its 1272. I think it does. It stands a chance to, but just like LTCN, I wouldn't be surprised if these targets weren't hit, right? Because of the private placement sales, I wouldn't be surprised. Now, the reason why I give it more of a chance is I think BCH will stand to gain more ground overall than LTC for the remainder of the cycle. LTC has a chance to gain more than BCH, though, for the rest of the cycle. It actually really does. It just depends on how far it breaks out whenever it sees new all-time highs. It also depends if it sees new all-time highs. So does BCH, but I do believe BCH will see more growth than LTC. Which would imply that, yes, this could be a more plausible target, seeing the minimum target than it would be for LTCN, seeing its 1272. But also, Bitcoin Cash, the BCHG trust is like one of their highest liquidity trusts, right? It's the trust that has the lowest, to my knowledge, out of all of them that have a premium. It's the one that has the lowest premium. So out of these private placement sales, which are hurting performance, one could theorize that the one that has the lowest premium might be the lowest desired. I'm not saying nobody bought into these private placement sales. I'm sure that they have, especially when someone's telling me that they've added more BCH to their BCHG trust, yet we are getting lower numbers in the BCH per share of BCHG. The only way that you would get that and get more BCH in the trust would be that you are diluting the shares. There's no other way that would make sense. But perhaps you're doing it at less of a rate than any other of the Grayscale trusts, because again, your premium is less attractive because it's not as large, right? It does have one of the lower premiums, if not the lowest, out of the Grayscale trust. Obviously, GBTC does, but it's not a trust anymore. It's an ETF. It's a trust. It's an exchange traded fund. It's nothing to do with a trust, but they still call it a trust. I don't know, man. I'm not a financial advisor or an economist, but sure makes you feel like it sometimes whenever you look at this stuff, right? Like it's just kind of funny. I'm definitely not, though, man. I've got a friend who's a financial advisor. I was talking to him. I feel like a monkey with like a wrench, right? He seems like a doctor scientist to me, right? It's different. It's definitely I'm a monkey who pushes buttons and does price predictions. Financial advisors different. I actually have a lot more respect for financial advisors than I did like a year ago and beyond, like throughout my whole trading endeavors. But anyways, right? It's a different world. It's a different world, right? This is more like the Wild West. Financial advisors are like more classy, let's just say. I don't know. A lot of them are scam artists. A lot of them are, I think. But so are a lot of people. So are a lot of YouTubers and TAs, right? Anything in finances, you're going to find scam artists, man. It's just how it's a scammy kind of environment. Hustlers make money, and it's not even scammers. It's also with finances, you get that hustler mentality. People hustle to make their money, man. And some people do it in honorable ways. Some people do it in less honorable ways, but it's all about making the money. So that's part of it. Man, I'm getting off on a tangent here. What I'm trying to get to is, yes, I think that it could see this target. It's possible. But let's run with the same idea that maybe it doesn't. Okay, you've already hit your 786. You've already gone through your 618. So I don't believe you're going to stop at your 886, 786, right? These aren't just targets that you can count on. They're targets that you can count on being broken. I very much do believe that you can count on seeing new all-time highs for BCHG, okay, which at a minimum from its current price would then imply that BCHG sees at a minimum of about a 10x. Okay, so at a minimum of a 10x, the 1272 is all the way at about a 39x from here. Okay, so that's kind of crazy actually, right? Because then LTCN, was I saying, let's see, we might have just made a case for BCHG to go higher, guys, because I don't see LTCN outperforming, or maybe for LTCN to go lower, right? Because we were talking about it going to about 1,000. I could really see that in 80x. I don't know, man. That builds a case because I very much do believe that BCHG will outperform LTCN throughout the rest of the cycle. Or maybe they compare similarly. Maybe that target is still there. I don't know. And again, the reason why I have less of a hard time believing this than I do for LTCN, seeing its fib targets, for one, it's obviously different overall in growth. But for two, I would assume out of all the private placement sale trusts, this one was probably the least impacted or the least diluted trust, in my opinion, because it has the least attractive premium. But again, that could be wrong. Maybe for whatever reason, it's the most attractive one, the one that's been invested in the most because it is their one of their more heavily liquid trusts. I don't know. All assumptions here. All right, enough talking. So for BCHG, I know I keep flip-flopping it, guys, but maybe this target isn't so crazy. Maybe this target by the end of the cycle is still on, right? Something between 250 and 530, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to say I think that's where you're going to go. I don't believe that you'll stop here. If you do stop here, I very much believe you'll see new all-time highs. But if you do stop somewhere in this zone, right, where you would stop, to me, that would make the most sense. And I'm very confident that's your low right there. Absolutely, I am. Where you would make the most sense to stop would be at a minimum $67, but most likely somewhere between $200 and $100. Somewhere between there. Somewhere between like a 17x to a 32x. But if you're at that 2272, why not hit the 1272, man? I don't know. If BCHG only sees a 40x for the rest of the cycle, then I don't see a scenario where LTCN gets like much past its all-time highs, right? It'd be like a triple top. And that could happen too. That's something you should prepare yourself for, right? That could, to me, it would make more sense that I'm overestimating LTCN than I am underestimating BCHG, right? Like these targets not even hitting the 1272 very well could happen, right? For this, that makes a lot of sense to me. But then I look at this, I look at LTCN and I compare the growth. It's like where it would make sense in LTCN, it doesn't make sense for BCHG, and in a certain respect, I guess it would make more sense to estimate higher predictions than lower ones. I don't know. BCHG has been the most dominant one between LTCN, ETCG, and BCHG. I'm gonna say it. I think 250 to 527 is possible. That's not me saying BCHG is better than LTCN, right? Again, 527, that's basically the same target area as what I would expect LTCN to hit, right? Same kind of growth. But maybe it only sees the 1272. I don't know. Don't hold out for 530. Don't be disappointed if it doesn't happen. And don't be disappointed if you don't see 250. I just want to make that clear, okay? But I do believe if we look at BCH real quick, and if I'm right in where I think BCH is going to go. Let's say I'm wrong. Let's actually say I'm wrong. Let's say BCH this cycle only goes here to 2007. It only goes to its 886. Overall, all-time high to all-time low. Only goes there. That's about an 8.5x. If it's going to do an 8.5x, and we compare it to what it's done already this cycle, right? From a low point in November to the high point, it's done it's done just over an 8x right now. Where this thing, from its low point in December, in basically the same amount of time, it's seen a 76, almost a 76x, 75x, where BCH, the underlying asset, saw just over an 8x. If it's going to do just over an 8x again, then it would stand to reason that you could see another 70-something x, man. And if you do, that would put you right between the 1272 and the 1414. So that makes sense to me, and it lines up with the idea of the LTCN. It lines up too. So yeah, I guess that's it. Between 250 to 530. Still on for BCHG, yes. Not on for LTCN, no. Not those target areas. Maybe it is, but I wouldn't take, for anybody out there who's like, if it's still on for BCHG, maybe there's a chance for LTCN. I would say no. I don't think so. Unless LTC really tears this cycle, in which case, then sure. If the underlying assets do well, that would be the saving grace to any kind of negative thing that the private placement sales would do, right? If the underlying assets are doing well, the trusts will do well, right? But the trusts have sold off so much more than the underlying assets. But the underlying assets haven't done well. They're not doing as bad, but they're not doing well, right? When they do well, the trusts do better. When the underlying assets don't do well, the trusts do worse. That's just the nature of the game, right? Again, same time frame. I would expect that BCHG tops off in that 250 to 530 area. Between, I would genuinely guess it is in the second half of the year. I think BCH itself will top off in October, so I'm thinking somewhere between, anything from as early as April to as late as October, right? I do think that these things could top off. I think they will top off before, most likely would top off before the underlying assets. I think based off of ETCG, we could see them top off at the same time, but most likely they do top off beforehand. I just don't believe it'll be 5 months like it was last time. I think something between 3 months to even less than a month. So if I expect BCH to top off in October, then 3 months to less than a month before that could be the case, right? If it could be October that BCHG tops off, it could be July that BCHG tops off. But if it happens, if BCH itself tops off earlier than October, then maybe we see BCHG top off in like March, April, May, June, sometime in that time frame. But I'm personally expecting July to October for BCHG to top off. Okay. So I hope that makes sense. All right, let's move on to the next one and finish up this bad boy. Okay, actually, we've got 2 more to go. So this one, LTC, USD, LTCN, this is at the request of Jordan Bailey, just showing the difference of the growth between LTC and LTCN, right? So this is LTC versus LTCN, which would imply, why does it, hold on now. Goes back to August of 2020. We get it. Okay, so there's the same thing. So LTC, guys, has actually been a better investment than LTCN has, right? Not since January of 2023, technically. Yes, since April of this year, obviously, right? The trusts go down faster than the underlying assets do. Of course they do. But since its inception, the underlying the underlying asset has actually been better to hold than the trust. That's going to change soon, though. I do think you're going lower. I very much do think you're going lower, right? You found support at a previous area of resistance. You sold off really hard. Volume was increasing as you came down. You're having a little bit of a bounce. I wouldn't call it a dead cat bounce, but definitely a bounce from a low to a high, right at your 0.5 area. Maybe you go up higher. Maybe you go to about 10 LTCNs per LTC. Wait, no, it'd be 10 LTCs per LTCN. This would be... No, this would be however many LTCNs per LTC. Okay, yeah, that's what that would be. So maybe it does continue to increase, but maybe it doesn't. I don't know. Based off of this, I would expect you to go to about 10 LTCNs per LTC. Looking at the weekly RSI, it kind of stands to reason that it would go higher as well. Daily RSI kind of stands to reason it would go higher as well. Very neutral. So perhaps you do see LTC gain value versus LTCN just a little bit longer, but then I would expect it to go down, likely, in time. And maybe it doesn't even go to that 236. It doesn't need to. There are points right now of resistance right here. I thought I was drawing a line, not a ray. We want our lines, not our ray. Give me a big white line. There we go. Previous areas of resistance and kind of a previous area of support way back here at the beginning. But you could, again, go higher to this 236 area, which is a little bit more in line with that resistance right here and previous support right there too. So if you don't go up there, no big deal. Either way, I think you're going down. I think you're going to go down to about 1.2 LTCNs per LTC to about 0.3 LTCNs per LTC, and potentially lower. Like, genuinely, I wonder how you interact with the 61869. I'm curious to see, but you could go lower, man. It is like you could genuinely see like new lows. If you're going to see this, that would just imply that LTCN grows at a rate 100% fat. Like if LTC grew 100%, LTCN would grow. Oh, it's different with the negatives. Never mind. It doesn't. It's the same with the positives. It's different. Never mind. I'm not even going to try to do that math. Okay, never mind. All that to say, though, what this chart is that the more bearish it looks, the better it is for the Grayscale Trust. The more bullish it looks, the worse it is for the Grayscale Trust. Because whenever it's bullish, that doesn't mean LTC is going up. It just means LTCN is going down faster. That's all it means, right? So you want this thing to be bearish. Generally, when it's bearish, they're both going up. It's just this one, LTCN's going faster. So I do think you're in toward the end of this little consolidation phase here. I do think you have more to go in this overall move. If this were to be a move, if this were to be some kind of like Elliott wave, you'd have like your wave 1 here. This is your wave 2. Wave 3 is expected to be the longest wave, generally speaking, right? And that could take you to your all-time lows, if not even below that, right? And sometimes, oftentimes enough, you even actually have like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of wave pattern. It just depends on what this is. If this is a corrective pattern, then it'll be a 1, 2, 3, and then we'll continue to go higher inevitably. But if it's a zigzag, is still a corrective pattern. I don't know if it's a 5-wave count. That could be really good for LTCN. So lower, yes, but momentarily high. That's all I got to say for that. The determined momentarily higher, yeah. BCHG versus LTCN now. This one, I can't believe we haven't talked about this one before, but Real Jesus Shalom, you're the one that requested this. Yeah, so clearly, obviously, BCHG has been the better investment compared to LTCN, right? Lately, and I mean really since July of 2021, they've been pretty comparable, hanging out in the same range, a little bit lower at times, a little bit higher at times, but nonetheless trending up versus LTCN. Absolutely it is. Very, very bullish weekly RSI. Very, very bullish since June of 2023, which is when BCH itself was pumping, and BCHG too. So very bullish. I don't think it stops here. I very much don't think it stops here. I think it does continue. If we look at the daily RSI, getting lower lows, price action, getting higher lows, hidden bullish divergence. You kind of look like you want to lose value, not going to lie, but you're also right at the 50. You might bounce here. I don't know if this might not be the most accurate chart to go off of, but let's look at this relative high to relative low and then finish this up. Let's see. I mean, technically, this would call for you to go a little bit lower. Maybe you do. Maybe you do go lower. Let's look at this real quick. Maybe you go to 44% of an LTCN per BCHG, maybe. You're at 51% of one right now. I don't know, but I do think you're going higher. Whether you go lower first or not, I do believe you're going higher. Ultimately, let's see. Do you even respect your fibs? Let's just see, man. Kind of. Yeah, ultimately, I think you're on your way up higher, probably to the zone, right? Nothing crazy, but just as the cycle develops, you'll probably keep working your way up into this zone, which makes sense because I do expect BCHG to be more valuable than LTCN. At its given trajectory, I feel like that makes sense. Based off its fibs, that makes sense. It doesn't look like it shows the most respect on its fibs, but at certain areas it does, so don't count on that. But yes, I think BCHG will be the better investment compared to LTCN. I think so. And I think it could go lower over the coming days, but I don't think it goes too much lower. Like if you go lower than this low, it wouldn't be by much. And the amount of upside that you have to do, you're going to grind for it, but you're slowly but surely, even if you move down, you're not going to move backwards in time. I didn't mean to draw it like that, but you'll slowly just be progressing, right? Up and up and up until you're at that 161869 area, which again would be between about, oh my goodness. So then this would imply that BCHG could be potentially at its high, worth exactly as much as one LTCN. When BCHG is worth exactly what LTCN is worth, that might be a good selling time, okay? That might be a good selling time. When it's worth about 70% of what LTCN is worth, it might be a good time to sell. Might be. And maybe not. Because maybe it'll be worth 70% of LTCN, and then they both together in unison move up another 11x. It wouldn't be a good, it wouldn't be a good time to sell. That's not the best metric to go off of. Okay, definitely not the best metric. If BCHG is worth exactly the same amount as LTCN, do not sell. That's not exactly the most accurate thing to go off of. Go sell off of price targets that we've established already. But if it does happen to be one, if the price targets do happen to be achieved simultaneously with BCHG having the exact same price as LTCN, take that as a sign that, okay, yes, it might be a good time to sell. But don't just base it off of being the same price or not. Think about the time frames. Think about the price targets, right? Because maybe maybe BCHG does catch up to LTCN. Maybe they're worth the exact same and it moves up faster at first, but then maybe they move in unison afterwards. I don't know. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, really don't worry about it. That part's not important. All you need to know is BCHG is probably going to gain value versus LTCN throughout the rest of the cycle. That's what the RSI is telling me. That's what the daily and the weekly looks like to me. That's what the trend looks like. So up and up and up you go. And that's all I got to say. If you guys liked the video, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Thank you all for being here. I'll see you on the next one. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.